Nancy? Can anybody hear me? Oh, I'm actually on. Hi, Sue.
Hi there, Dana.
Are you here in Pittsburgh or are you in North Carolina?
Oh, we're in Pittsburgh. We're not going anywhere. It's not real good in North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. You got quarantined from New York.
Right.
Well, guess what? Brian and I were at a horse farm in New York, and on Wednesday was when we were leaving. So we were like joking. We were like, we were in and we were out. But I know PA is not one of the states yet, but
Right.
so
Yeah, we're pretty good.
well, Francesca was just asking about you, and she's like, is she here or is she in North Carolina? I'm like, whoever knows.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. How is she doing?
She's doing pretty good. We were over there yesterday. We were social distance drinking.
Oh, good for you.
Well, my doctor actually I'm in a weight loss program, and my doctor actually gave me extra calories to like make sure that I social.
Oh.
She's like, that's for a good glass of wine. So,
Oh, good for you.
but I just drink water anyways, because I'm trying not to drink and not be aware if I'm not at home just with my husband.
You know what? Now that you mention it, your face looks thinner. How much weight have you lost?
So far, 20 pounds, but
That's a lot. Good for you.
thank you. Well, my body just likes to try to protect itself when I'm stressed, and it will automatically gain weight. But
Yeah.
I was just telling my doctor the other day, I'm like, I'm really proud of my brain and my body for protecting me over the years. So
Yeah.
it's doing its job.
Yeah. So, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
Very well. Do we have one more after this? One more session, Dana?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Just one more? Mm-hmm.
Yep. Today is the week 5, so next Saturday will be the last one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I missed last week because we went away. We were horseback riding.
Oh my.
Are they going to do that next week? Even though isn't it like 4th of July or something?
Hey, hi Kyoko.
Hi,
Hello.
Kyoko.
Is next Saturday 4th of July?
I don't know.
I think so.
It
I
might
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to do the session still?
Yeah, it's
Puppy.
probably.
I think he probably will because it's morning.
Okay.
She's so pretty.
What's your puppy's name, Kyoko?
Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio. Did you hear that? Do you like Lizzo, the rap artist?
Not really.
Oh, because she has a line about Pinot Grigio actually in one of her songs.
Oh, I have to listen to that.
But that's a perfect name for that beautiful puppy there.
Yeah.
Look how white her hair is.
Because he's really sweet and mellow. So what is white and sweet and mellow? It's Pinot Grigio.
I guess Pinot Grigio.
That's right. But you named her that before you knew she was sweet and mellow, right?
No, when he came to me, he was
It's a boy.
already,
Okay.
he was almost about 5 months old. He was an old
Okay.
puppy. And
I like that because sometimes you name a puppy and you're like, I think I gave it the wrong name. Like our first dog name was Priscilla, but then she would like get really cranky, so we started calling her Priscilla at times.
he was an older guy, and we got him because he was very mellow and sweet, because my other dog is pretty reactive.
Does it help?
I mean, it doesn't help the fact that she's reactive, but she accepted him because he's very, very docile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The other one's older.
Yeah. She's
What's
11.
Oh, that's pretty old, right?
Yeah. He's old too now. He's 8 now.
What's the other one's name?
Charlie.
Spell it?
Charlie.
Oh, Charlie. Okay.
She's a girl, but her name is Charlie. Say hello.
She's so clean. Do you clean her yourself?
No.
She
I
looks
mean,
like
I brush him, but
Uh,
he has to get a haircut.
Yeah.
costs more
Yeah.
than my hair.
I'm sure it does. I know my daughter used to take her golden retriever to get groomed and
Yeah. But they said that the grooming fee is more because
Mhm.
groomers have to risk, possibly being bit,
Yeah,
or a groomer have to clean their ears in private areas where our hairdressers doesn't have to do that.
right, right. Yeah, that makes sense too, doesn't it? Yeah. And I think a poodle has to be done more often. I think Joy only took her dog maybe 2, 3 times a year. But
Oh,
poodles have to go pretty often, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
because they don't shed, their hair grows.
It's like hair more than fur,
Their
right?
hair, yep.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello. Hi,
Hello, good
Padma.
morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning.
I'm always having technical difficulties before getting on. I feel like such an old lady. I had Brian working, I had my tech support. We were working on a whole nother computer and it doesn't normally work on this computer. So I'm amazed that we got on in time.
Can I put a question on something right now, or do we have to wait to do that?
I think it's
You could do that.
9:01. Go for it.
I don't know how.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning, Bante.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning,
So,
Morning,
Bante.
Bante.
yeah, you have already started the discussion, right? So I heard about the
Mhm.
golden retriever.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely involved in the readings.
Yes. Actually, if you have a question, you can actually use the chat section and type it there. So I will get it.
Right now,
Yes. You anytime you
this-
can do it.
okay, okay, I'm going to put one on right now.
Yeah. Anytime, whenever we have a question, we can type it in the chat section. So then I can see it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that so many of you are here for our class. So I think we will start the class as usual. Let us sit for a few minutes, to have a mindful moment, short meditation, to gather our attention and calm it down, and then we are ready for the teachings. Okay, so adjust your body in your chair a little bit. It's good to have kind of, straight body, but not really tense. Just, just straight but relaxed shoulders. And rest your palms and keep your chin somewhat parallel with the earth. Let us bring our whole attention to this moment, particularly the way we feel in our body. So I'm going to ring this bell. Use the sound of the bell to gather your attention and start to feel your body. Where this body is touching now, which parts of the body are touching each other, where we feel our clothes. Just pay attention to this present moment experience that's happening right now. Okay, with this awareness of the present moment, let us invite a wholesome thought to our mind, making a good wish to ourselves and all beings living everywhere. You can feel your body sitting here. You can feel your presence here. So make a genuine wish. May this person sitting here, may this living being, I, be well, be strong, be healthy, be peaceful. 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 Let us expand this good wish beyond ourselves to everyone joining with us today in this class. May all our classmates, all our spiritual friends joining from different places, may they all, right now, be well, be safe, be healthy. May they all have strength, courage, and wisdom to overcome challenges in their lives. May they all be peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. Let us expand this wish beyond our friends to everyone else living all around in our neighborhood. May all people living in the surrounding area. May all people living in this whole city. May all people living in this whole country, in all different places. And may all people living throughout the world. May all human beings right now be well, be safe, be healthy. May they all have courage, strength, and wisdom to overcome all challenges in their lives. May they all be peaceful, peaceful, peace. Let us expand this beyond human beings to all other living beings, all forms of life, all living beings, animals, and other beings living everywhere. Each and every living organism, without exception, be well, be safe, be healthy, be peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. Thank you, everyone. We can come out of the meditation and put our palms together. With deep gratitude, we can say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, I'm so glad that we are all here this week also. So today we'll discuss the multiplicity, maybe diversity within Buddhism. Particularly whenever we learn about Buddhism in the beginning, we get the general picture of the teachings of the Buddha and then the community that Buddha established. But then, the more we study, we understand the different diversity of the Buddhist tradition. So in the beginning, the beginner who is start to learn about Buddhism, it is very natural that we can get confused, these different styles, different, traditions. But we need to understand that, Buddhism has been on this earth for about 26 centuries. For the 26 centuries, it was with, people on different geographical areas, encounter different cultures. And also, as you know, Buddhism also, in its philosophy, admire diversity. It doesn't try to create a uniform culture. Therefore, because of that, it's very natural that you find all different forms. So today we will be familiar with, main three traditions, maybe main three forms of Buddhism. And then we will understand how they are connected for the same purpose in different ways. And also in the beginning, you may find it confusing, but later you will see the connection. And then what you will eventually understand that because of the diversity of the Buddhist tradition, actually Buddhism celebrates this diversity. And because of this diversity, it's kind of provide many opportunities to many different types of people. So I hope that, that's the goal today. So if you have any questions about the readings you did or any other the thoughts that came to you, can go to your chat section and type it. And I haven't received any questions yet. Maybe you have to type it. Okay, I got it one now. But that is from. Okay, so you have to type it and you have to send it. Maybe you have to hit the return button or the enter button. Then it will come to me.
Can we talk?
I
You can talk also. You can talk also. Yeah.
Okay, I sent one, Bante, and I don't think it arrived.
I think you have to type it.
I did.
So did you like hit this enter or?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe
Maybe we can ask. Yeah, okay.
maybe
Okay.
I'll just ask you when the time is when it's appropriate.
Okay, good. Okay. So
I have a question right away.
okay, I think you can ask the question after I start the lesson. Okay. So Nancy, do you have a question now?
I do.
Okay, before we start. Okay, go ahead.
The first writing that you sent, from what perspective is that written? By a Theravadan, a Mahayana, or a
It's only simply a description, okay, of course, it depends on the author. I think I use two writings, so you can see the person, the underneath who wrote that, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I combine two readings into one, and then I was trying to find something that explain the main items without really taking a position.
Okay.
Because I think you may have read Vajrayana section, it's already taking a position. So it's really difficult to get, kind of objective explanation. Yeah. We can discuss that, along the way.
Okay.
Okay. So 3 traditions of Buddhism. Okay. I think so far what we have learned as the basic teachings, pretty much, covers the lot of Theravada teaching, but let me explain the meaning of this term. Of course, Theravada school is the only surviving schools among the early Buddhist schools, many early Buddhist schools. We discussed that, before the rise of Mahayana movement, there were few types of early Buddhist schools. And we talk about that, the initial period after 100 years later, the Buddha's passing away. There were different early schools of Buddhism, but many of them didn't survive, and then Theravada is the only school that is coming from that early schools. And then the term Thera means the elders, and Vada is like a doctrine. So the literal meaning is the doctrines of the elders. Or what do you mean by elders here? The Thera, the elders, are the Arahants or maybe the early enlightened disciples of the Buddha. So the Thera means the enlightened disciples of the Buddha and the doctrines of the elders. That's the literal meaning. But of course, the name came much later to like distinguish. And recently, scholars have argued that the very term Theravada start to appear much later. Initially, you didn't. You need a term when you have other forms of Buddhism. And even there were different names also to refer to these early schools. But the very Theravada itself is quite a new term. But it means maybe one of the early schools, and also like the doctrines of the early disciples of the Buddha. Of course, doctrines of the Buddha, but how those doctrines were interpreted by the enlightened early disciples of the Buddha. So the one important feature in the Theravada Buddhism is that it relies on Buddhist texts preserved in Pali language. The Pali is one of the Buddhist languages where the teachings of the Buddha is preserved: Pali, Sanskrit, and then these are the two root languages, Pali and Sanskrit. And later, these texts were translated to Tibetan, to Chinese, and to many other languages too. The Theravada school relies on texts written in Pali language. And so we discussed about the three baskets last time in the first council. Remember, in the first council, the teachings of the Buddha was collected and then categorized into different sections, and its responsibilities were assigned to different groups of monks to continue that text. So we call it three baskets. So for the Theravada Buddhists, that the early literature, that three baskets is the main source for their teaching. So we have the suttas, which means the Buddha's discourses, and then of course disciplinary codes given by the Buddha for monks and nuns. And then we have the third category called Abhidhamma, which means quite a philosophical analysis of the sutras, what is found in the sutras, the philosophical analysis. And then later the Abhidhamma, the sutras and Vinayas were kind of closed. In the first council, they were collected and they were closed. But the Abhidhamma, there were original 7 texts there, but then later it didn't close. It becomes the section where the later monks can contribute. So the Abhidhamma section become an area where the particular Theravada interpretation of the Buddhist doctrines were preserved. That third basket became how the doctrine was interpreted by the later Theravada monks. But the sutras and disciplinary code were preserved without changing. And then there are also Pali commentaries written by the later, along, and the Theravada formal school, among many other schools, were in India, and particularly it moved to South India, and then of course later it is the form of Buddhism that reached Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Burma, and those countries. And in those countries, the commentaries, more explanation by different meditators, different monks, based on their experiences, and also using their examples. So there are a lot of commentaries written in Pali also. A huge collection of commentaries. But in many times, the Theravada Buddhism pay more attention to the early sutras. But of course, if you want to know more detail, and they will also go to commentaries written by monks in different later centuries. The one of such very important text for Theravada Buddhists is called the Visuddhimagga. It's called the Path of Purification. And this is composed in 5th century by the monk called Buddhaghosa. And he's a monk from South India, but then traveled to Sri Lanka. And he learned the oral commentarial tradition in Sri Lanka, and then put that whole interpretation into one, like synthesized them and put into one anthology. And then it's called Visuddhimagga. It became a classical text for Theravada tradition. So this is mainly, I mean, and then in terms of doctrines, what you have learned, like, the Four Noble Truths, independent origination, and those are the Theravada doctrines, and it is common to many other traditions too. But in terms of literature, we have this extra literature. When it comes to practice, Theravada tradition emphasizes gradual training, and we talk about Noble Eightfold Path, and it's also itself a gradual training. It's emphasize gradual training, and also emphasize on one's own effort. We need to make an effort to do this, and of course, our teachers and our friends can help us, but it's ultimately requires an effort. And then, so the Noble Eightfold Path. And then in terms of meditation, the true streams of meditation developed within Theravada tradition, which is shared by all other traditions too. So we call samatha meditation, which is the meditation practices that aim for the stillness of the mind, calmness of the mind. And then the slightly different set of techniques, which we call vipassana meditation, which is using analytical ability of the mind to investigate, analyze the true nature of our experiences. So it's a kind of balanced practice. On one hand, you will calm your mind, make your mind still, quiet, and then using of the analytical ability of the mind to see through our delusions. So true forms of meditation. I think, so of course, I hope that you're already familiar with the Theravada customs. And today I'm only focusing on the doctrinal positions, and there are different practices definitely in these traditions. We can ask questions later. So then I will quickly like to move to Mahayana Buddhism, which is the main part of the lesson today. Let's go with this term. Initially, we need to understand that, what is really interesting about this Buddhist traditions is that there's no one single event or moment in history that where these different schools start be separated and start to practice differently. That's not what really happened in Buddhism. Of course, we talk about the splits in terms of monks' disciplinary rules and how serious they want to take it, but that happened among the early schools. So by the time the Mahayana form of Buddhism was rising, those schools were there. So like many schools were there, but the Mahayana Buddhism start not on a particular incident. There were no kind of conflict or disagreement to start Mahayana kind of Buddhism. It's more like a movement. It's more like a different religious orientation, and those ideas were forming among the monastic communities initially. And I think in the readings you read that we have evidences like before the fully fledged Mahayana practice emerged, and the monks, it's like monks living in the same monastery can have Mahayana ideas. So it started like a slow movement, mainly as a way of emphasizing the compassion in Buddhism. Some scholars earlier argued that the early schools of Buddhism focused more on the monastic practice, and they were writing so many philosophically rich texts, but not paying attention to the common public, and therefore there was a reaction, the movement that kind of emphasized the need to address the common people, and the need to bring the compassion to the forefront, and And then Mahayana movement was to bring that compassion out. But of course, now the more research you do, you realize that actually it is, initially they thought that it's more like a lay reaction, a reaction of the lay people. But now we have different evidence that it is not necessarily a lay movement. It's also movement started in the monastic community in the beginning. So it was a slow movement around, the first century. But these ideas were forming, and then to become a distinctly different practice, it talks about more than a century. This is the time period. So the very term Mahayana, so the Maha means great, Yana means vehicle. The very term Mahayana means great vehicle. Let's understand in what context the meaning of great vehicle comes. Great, what is the great vehicle? This is how the great vehicle comes. So let's say among the early schools of Buddhism, the Theravada was one of those early schools. So let's say, and the early schools was practicing to become enlightened, but they identified 3 ways to become enlightened. The same transformation of the mind, but 3 possibilities. One's called the Buddhahood, which means like the historical Buddha, the person who make effort and fulfill all different skills for many lifetimes and become a Buddha in a period where the teachings is not available. Nobody knows about any dharma. So such a person who become enlightened in a particular period where the teachings are not available, we call that person a Sambuddha. So that is one possibility. Like, we can make an aim that I will become enlightened in order to help so many beings in a period where nobody knows the teachings. In future, because everything is impermanent, and even the Buddhist teachings can disappear, and the possibility of enlightenment, these techniques can disappear. And so the Buddhahood is someone who rediscovered these things by himself. We knew that historical Buddha, and he was learning from other teachers, but not the enlightenment, not the complete enlightenment. So he had to rediscover by himself. So the person who rediscovered the teachings by himself and then establish a community of disciples and teach this is called Buddha, like we call Sambuddha. That is one possibility. The second possibility is also called a solitary Buddhahood or Pacceka Buddha. Again, are the practitioners who become enlightened when the teachings are not available. Their teachings are not available, there's no community, there's no teachers, but in their own struggle, in their own effort, in their own trial and effort methods, they somehow, because the enlightenment is a possibility, it's a potential that we all have. So it's possible that someone can discover by himself. So the both cases of the Buddhahood and solitary Buddhahood, the enlightenment and the techniques, the path to enlightenment are discovered by person himself or herself. But the difference is that in the second case, the solitary Buddhahood, that person will rediscover and become enlightened, but he will or she will not definitely set up a community, establish a community. He will teach occasionally, but will not establish a community, because in the case of some Buddha, the Buddhahood, that the person who aspire to become a Sambuddha is purposely training himself or herself over the lifetime with all skills needed to become an effective teacher. Because in order for you to establish a community of disciples and establish a kind of, a lineage and tradition, you need extra skills. So the person who will aspire to become some Buddha, to achieve Buddhahood, he will develop those skills. But in the case of solitary Buddhahood, they become enlightened. They penetrate their delusion and they destroy all the defilements and become fully enlightened. But they will teach, but they are not interested in establishing a community.
Okay,
I can see a hand, yes?
that's me. Can I ask a question about that? Would that include people like somebody like Martin Luther King? Or how do you know, how do you identify a person like that?
The traditional, theoretical, traditional answer would be for that actually, when the teachings are available, it is difficult for someone to become enlightened by himself because he will be exposed to these teachings. Particularly, it is possible. The second category, solitary Buddhahood, shows that it is possible to have enlightened people outside of Buddhist traditions.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible, to have enlightened people outside of, Buddhist tradition. But the usual understanding is that when the teachings are available, they will, it's difficult to, for them not to know it. It's about the suffering, it's about the selflessness, and it's about compassion, right? And of course, enlightenment has a particular definition, the end of the samsara and end of the repeated occurrence of dukkha.
Yeah.
So the third possibility is that when the teachings are available, like this time, you had a Buddha, like say some Buddha, that's a proper term, who appeared, who rediscovered this possibility. He taught the techniques, the methods, established a community, and then of course we don't have to rediscover everything again because the teachings are given to us, and then we can practice it and re-experience by ourselves what the Buddha experienced, and then you are like a disciple. So that's called the third possibility in how you become enlightened. Because when the teachings are available, you learn it, you practice it, you keep on practicing it, and until you recreate the enlightenment within yourself. So that is what we call arahanthood, or the becoming enlightened as a disciple of a Buddha. So in early schools, so someone want to become enlightened, they can choose one of these paths. Even now in Theravada tradition, and usually when we wish people, we say that may you attain enlightenment in one of these three possibilities. And that's the wish. So we can kind of choose, whether you can choose to become some Buddha, that requires a heroic path, that requires, training oneself, different skills needed to establish a community. It's also, you are doing it not only for your own enlightenment, we are doing it to help so many beings to become enlightened. So you can choose that path, or you can choose to become solitary Buddhahood, become enlightened when the teachings are not available, and teach whoever you can, but don't bother to establish a community. Or you can make an aspiration to become enlightened by using the available teachings right now. So these the three possibilities, we call three vehicles. So when you see this, of course, you can see that it may be the more noble vehicle would be some Buddha, Buddhahood, become enlightened when the teachings are not available. So it can help so many living beings also. And you are becoming enlightened not only for your sake, but also for the other sentient beings. Of course, becoming enlightened for your sake is not is illogical, because the very enlightenment is actually going beyond your self-centeredness, and the very division between self and others is not meaningful in the enlightenment. But at least when you set a motivation, aspiration, in early schools we have these three options, and within Theravada Buddhism also we have these three options. It's up to the individual to choose which way they want to become enlightened. So Mahayana is actually Mahayana movement promoted attaining the enlightenment from the first method, so the first vehicle. And that is why it's called Mahayana, the great vehicle. So among these three vehicles, they prefer the first vehicle, which is the greater vehicle, and they interpret it in that way because that way of becoming enlightened can help so many other sentient beings. So focusing on the first vehicle is the meaning of being Mahayana, the great vehicle. Among these three vehicles, they preferred this Mahayana movement, this movement arousal, promoting that, if you really want to become enlightened, you have to focus on the great vehicle, to becoming a Sambuddha, which can help so many other beings also to become enlightened. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we call the Mahayana, great vehicle. And then, so as a result, the Mahayana movement promoted an ideal, an ideal called Bodhisattva ideal in contrast to Arahant ideal. So we know that, Arahants are is the way of becoming enlightened as a disciple. So that is one possibility. But the Mahayana movement was encouraging that you have to become Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is someone who aspires to become enlightened. But within the Mahayana Buddhism, the very term Bodhisattva can mean simply someone who is aspiring to become enlightened. So within the Theravada tradition, when we say Bodhisattva, it either means to the historical Buddha before he became the Buddha. When he was a prince, he was a Bodhisattva. When he was practicing in previous life, he was a Bodhisattva. So whenever the term Bodhisattva is used in Theravada Buddhism, it refers to the Buddha, the status of the Buddha before becoming the Buddha, or someone who has seriously practiced to become enlightened in one of these three ways that I just discussed. But within the Mahayana tradition, when you say Bodhisattva, it's not simply someone who's aspiring to become enlightened, but actually Bodhisattva can also means someone who aspires to become like the Buddha himself, to become enlightened in a period where teachings are not available, so he can help so many beings. So Mahayana Buddhism encourages that you have to become a Bodhisattva, practicing this teaching to help other beings, to enlighten. And so it's more like emphasizing of the compassion of the compassion. So in contrast to Arahant ideal, they were promoting the Bodhisattva ideal. And then of course later, Mahayana Buddhism also developed a set of beings, set of figures, set of advanced practitioners, who actually practice to become the Buddha, some Buddha, but they purposely delay the enlightenment in order to stay in the samsara, because once you become enlightened, you kind of dissolve yourself. So they purposely delay the enlightenment in order to help other beings. So in Mahayana Buddhism, we have a special meaning for Bodhisattva. When I was teaching, I was trying to get an example in what this particular special kind of set of beings, who in Mahayana Buddhism, there are a number of such beings. We can call them celestial beings, who are almost enlightened, but they don't achieve the full enlightenment, because they can stay in the samsara, that they can continue to help others. It's like you go to a college and you have get all your credits, but except few credits you need to be graduated, but you purposely do not take them because you'd like to be in the campus. something like that. So the Bodhisattvas are almost enlightened, almost like the Buddha. In Ikaren Mahayana Buddhism, it's like almost like the Buddha, but they are there with compassion to help other beings. So the important concept in Mahayana Buddhism is also called bodhicitta, that is to make a determination to practice this path to help all sentient beings. So in the beginning of the practice is to help all sentient beings. We learn about the Four Noble Truths. We were talking about the suffering. So in when we discuss early teachings, we understand that, you know, we are taking the responsibility of ourselves, so to speak. We are taking the responsibility that, you know, suffering is a production, it's a cause of production. So there are certain elements that we put into that. So therefore, you know, if I make an effort, I can change the situation. You take the responsibility of purifying your heart. You take the responsibility of developing your wisdom. And bodhicitta is also taking the responsibility of helping other sentient beings also to do that. So the early schools and had that, you know, motivation. You know, they were not simply, you know, practicing for themselves, but they are paying more attention to the one's own effort. You know, they pay more attention to the work, spiritual work one had to do. But you know what happened in the Mahayana movement? They are like pushing the emphasis more on helping others. And bodhicitta is to make a determination to start its practice to help all sentient beings. So Mahayana Buddhism accepts early discourses, you know, what we call the sutras written in Pali and Sanskrit languages. They admit, they accept it, and then, but they have also added so many other sutras. So we need to understand in Buddhist, different Buddhist traditions, what we see is like additions. So that is why it's not really a kind of conflict or like, you know, a kind of split, but more like an addition. You know, each tradition will add different layers to the Buddhist practices. So they will accept all the early teachings that preserved in Pali and Sanskrit languages, the sutras, but they in Mahayana Buddhism, they have key other sutras that they added to the canon, and then they highlight them. You know, we talks about the Lotus Sutra is one of the very famous sutra and well-known sutra in the whole Mahayana world, and it is in this sutra the one vehicle, the Mahayana, the greater vehicle is emphasized. You know, saying that, you know, if really you want to become enlightened, choose the great one, the one vehicle. And also the idea of skillful means, like the Buddhas can teach, can present their teachings in different ways to, you know, help sentient beings to become interested in the path. And actually, you know that when we read the early sutras, the early sutra is a discourse of the historical Buddha, but there are long discourses, but that long means, you know, maybe like 10 pages. But when you say Lotus Sutra, I mean, the term sutra is always referred to the teachings of the Buddha. But when you say Lotus Sutra, it's not really simply like few page document. You know, I mean, Lotus Sutra is a huge text. It has 26 chapters. It's almost like a book, you know, really book. So all this called sutra is actually a whole text. It's quite different from the early sutras. You know, early sutras is quite short in that sense. And particularly the early sutras, the audience are always, you know, like, you know, the people, the farmers, you know, monks, you know, maybe, you know, the whoever Buddha meet along the path. So like ordinary people are the audience in the early sutras. But the audience of the Lotus Sutras, it's not like ordinary, you know, people. I mean, there are ordinary people too, but mainly bodhisattvas, you know, like more like a celestial beings. Like the Lotus Sutra is given like whole cosmos, not to a particular group of disciples, but it's like giving this teaching to the whole cosmos, to all different, you know, different types of beings. And then Heart Sutra is actually, it is a part of the sutra called Wisdom Sutra. There's a huge sutra called Wisdom Sutra, but it's a heart of that sutra is called the Heart Sutra. It's also an important sutra in Mahayana Buddhism. And this sutra is mainly emphasizing the emptiness, particularly emptiness of the 5 aggregates. So in the early schools like Theravada Buddhism, you find emphasis on impermanence and non-self nature. In the same way, the Mahayana Buddhism will teach the same thing, like impermanence and non-self nature, but by presenting it more on the language of emptiness. So the Heart Sutra is like emphasizing the emptiness. And then, of course, there are many other sutras, but there's one sutra called Lankavatara Sutra, where the emphasis is there actually to understand that the samsara, the whatever the world that we are living is we don't have to like take it seriously. And sometime when we think about the enlightenment and the samsara, or nirvana and samsara, we tend to think that samsara on the one side and nirvana on the other side. But the Lankavatara Sutras try to go beyond that division. And it says that nirvana is right here. And what we call samsara is a deluded view of the ultimate reality. So it's not somewhere else, but a different way of living, a very different way of looking at it. So the Mahayana Sutras are philosophically so advanced. So I mean, of course, you know that I'm a Theravada monk, right? So when I read Mahayana Sutras, of course, I respect my own tradition, but when I read Mahayana Sutras, what I find is actually what is given in the early sutras as giving like teachings on impermanence and non-self, those things, but they are given to different audiences, to different groups of people. They are like actually historically situated. You know, Buddha is talking to a group of monks, and then he will teach in that level. When Buddha is talking to a group of farmers, he will teach in that level. But when I read Mahayana Sutras, what I find is that actually they are not different from what we find in early sutras, but they have taken the kind of essence of it, and but present their teachings like a more systematic presentation to the like larger audience. It's more like the Abhidhamma in the Buddhism. In Abhidhamma, there's no audience. You just simply present the teachings like object, not changing according to the audience. I think that's what I find in this Mahayana Sutras. I don't see any big, like fundamental difference there. But when it comes to the Buddhahood, there are different conceptions that we need to understand. So in Mahayana Buddhism, we have a concept of three bodies of the Buddha. So the enlightened being has three bodies. So the first body is called the physical or emanation body. That would be the historical Buddha. And then, but in Theravada Buddhism, we admit that the Buddha, the Shakyamuni Buddha, or the Buddha, the Gautama, when he was a prince, and when he renounced the world, and then he searched for the enlightenment. So according to Theravada Buddhism, his search was really genuine. He was really trying, and he was really examining and doing investigation. It was a real search, and it could have been possible that he could not have been enlightened at that life, but he did. But according to Mahayana Buddhism, their interpretation of the life of the historical Buddha is more like a presentation. And Buddha is already enlightened even before he became to the human world, but he was doing these practices like searching and doing this as an example for others to follow. So he was already enlightened, so to speak. Of course, that and of course the potential of enlightenment is available in everyone's mind. But the Mahayana way of looking at the Buddha. So the historical Buddha would be, for according to Mahayana concept of three bodies, is a physical or emanation body of a larger reality behind him. So physical Buddha. The second body is called the body of bliss or enjoyment, called cosmic Buddhas. That means once you become enlightened in Mahayana Buddhism, you can actually create a realm because your mind is so powerful. You can create a realm of existence, and then you can enjoy the bliss of enlightenment there. So other than the historical Buddha in Mahayana Buddhism, we have so many cosmic Buddhas. This not only the historical Buddha who lived in 6th century BCE. For Theravada Buddhists, that was the only known Buddha. Of course, there were Buddhas before him, and there will be Buddhas appearing in future, but human beings. But in Mahayana Buddhism, there are many cosmic Buddhas already existing right now. in different realms, because once you become enlightened, according to Mahayana belief, you can create a realm. So there are the different other Buddhas who are there and helping sentient beings and also enjoying the bliss of enlightenment. That's a second body. So if they want really help, they can come as a human being and then help sentient beings. And the last body, the third body is called the Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya, that means the body of the ultimate reality. This is the pure essence of all Buddhas. This is based on the idea that actually the enlightenment is already existing in everyone's mind. And so in Theravada Buddhism, enlightenment is a potential. It's like a seed. You need to grow it to become fully manifested. It is a potential. But when it comes to Mahayana Buddhism, of course, later in the Vajrayana Buddhism, enlightenment is already there. Like we are already enlightened, so to speak. But however, the idea of Dharmakaya, body of ultimate reality, is that what is really underneath of this, the mind full of defilements, underneath is the purified mind, is the enlightened mind. So that enlightened mind is not different from the other minds. Once you become enlightened, once you go beyond your self notion, is the same. So the pure essence of all enlightened nature is called the body of ultimate reality. It's more like unmanifested reality. So that is the real reality. And from there, that once you realize that, once you embody that, and you have the power to create realms, and then if you like, you can come to the human world. So the three bodies. So the Buddhas has the three bodies: the physical body and the body of enjoyment and body of ultimate reality. Physical we call Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Dharmakaya. You may have a lot of questions on that, but let's discuss that. Let me quickly finish this part. So there are, in Mahayana viewpoint, there are parallel worlds where Buddhas are still living. Means that, of course, even, so there could be like this earth is only one place, but there could be other, universe. So in many other universes, Buddha can appear, and particularly when you become enlightened, you can create a realm. So there are, and realms of the Buddhas in the cosmos. So the cosmos become different when somebody become enlightened, and because they can create a realm. So there are a number of Buddha, other than the historical Buddha, in Mahayana Buddhism, there are a number of cosmic Buddhas who are actually in different realms right now, helping all other sentient beings. And there are mainly 5 main Buddhas, and you don't have to remember all of them. There are 5 main Buddhas, but I will explain you a few. This is called Vairochana Buddha. Actually, usually, these Buddhas also explain in different directions of the universe. So the Vairochana Buddha is in the actual center. And this is a Vairochana Buddha, the statue from Japan. And Vairochana Buddha, this cosmic Buddha, is quite famous in Japan. But I think the most famous Buddha among these cosmic Buddhas are the Amitabha Buddha. In Japan, they call Amida Butsu, or Amida Butsu, Amitabha. And this Buddha's realm is in the Western direction, so called the Western land. And sometimes this world is also called Pure Land. And in later we have within Mahayana Buddhism also there are different minor schools. There are different schools. There's one school called Pure Land School. They specifically focus on Amitabha Buddha. So if you go to a Mahayana temple, and sometimes you may see a Buddha statue, but the statue may not be the historical Buddha. There are historical Buddha, statue of the historical Buddha also, but maybe a statue could be the statue of the Amitabha Buddha. The one way you can identify whether it's a Amitabha Buddha is actually, you can see at the top of the head here, you can have a different, like a red or some symbol over here. That is how, and the red is the color of Amitabha Buddha. And this is one of the Buddhas, and there are so many things to tell about this Buddha, but I think we don't have time. And particularly this Buddha made aspiration that he would, out of his great compassion, he want to help all sentient beings to become enlightened. And if someone cannot become enlightened right here because this world has so many distractions, so Amitabha Buddha has created a realm where all conditions are conducive for the enlightenment. So if someone can be born there, and we are sure to become enlightened. So that's what we call Pure Land Buddhism, aspiring to be reborn in Amitabha Buddha's realm, where you will be guided to become enlightened from there. So the cosmic Buddhas. And then of course there are so many bodhisattvas. Remember the bodhisattva is one who aspires to become enlightened in order to help all other sentient beings. But in Mahayana Buddhism, there are recognized special figures who are like advanced bodhisattvas who are actually helping the other sentient beings. So celestial bodhisattvas, and there are and celestial bodhisattvas over there, they can help people to even for mundane needs. Like if you have any problem, you can call them, you can ask help from them, because they are compassionate beings. They have devoted their whole practice to help other sentient beings with their great compassion. They will help you. They will help for your mundane needs and also help you to become enlightened. So celestial bodhisattvas. So there are popular bodhisattvas in Mahayana countries, and one famous bodhisattva is called Avalokiteshvara or Kuan Yin. The statue you can see on the other side is the statue of the Kuan Yin. And maybe the statue of Kuan Yin Avalokiteshvara, this bodhisattva is also like one attendant of Amitabha Buddha. And the very meaning of Avalokiteshvara is like looking down and looking to help. So Kuan Yin, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, is present in both male and female forms. So in China, the female form is more popular. And if you go to China, you will see so many statues of this, and even in other Mahayana Buddhist countries, these bodhisattvas, compassionate beings that help other people. And of course, Manjushri and Kshitigarbha, I think we don't have time to go through the whole pantheon, but there are like celestial bodhisattvas in Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, I think I would like to stop here in the presentation of Mahayana Buddhism. Of course, I have so many questions here. Let me see whether I can, follow them. Why not me? Why not? I will read these questions and try to, find answers to them. But meanwhile, you can do your group work. Okay, so let's do that way. I have prepared a set of questions, because then now our next session will be like Vajrayana Buddhism. And then we will, so in order to save time, I would like to start our group work now. And then meanwhile, I will read all these questions, and then we try to, try to give you answers at the end. Is that okay? Yes. So in order for you to do the group work together, you need to have a link. Let me send you that link because we need a document. Okay, I just sent a link. Link. Can you see whether that link appears in your chat section? Can you try to open it? It's a link to a document.
We found the link.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so do you have any? Is everyone got the link? Can you open the document?
No, I need that kid.
Okay.
On my link.
Me too.
So you will have a link, a Google Google document. So try to open it, and that will be the document. So in that document, you have 5 questions. So I'm going to now divide you into groups. So I want you to find answer to the questions that I have sent you. That questions is about Vajrayana Buddhism. You have read it. You may have some knowledge prior to this class. So try to, go through those questions and try to find answers. We will, I will ask each group to, answer those questions. Okay. If anyone has any difficulty in getting that document, please let me know. Okay. I'm always very, very interested to know, that in how, what kind of group we can create. It's like, I don't do it purposely. I can shift people, but, it's a Zoom is doing that, Don't you think that's so surprising that we don't know how many, who are the people who will come to our class, right? It's going to be very random. Okay, I have Google app. Okay. Okay, so I think you have the questions that I sent you. Okay, can we start our group work now? Okay, here comes the surprise. So I'm going to break to like maybe 5 people in a group. Okay, and let's see who will be going to different groups. Okay, so once I start the group, your job is to go through the document and discuss among each other and try to find answer to those questions that I have given there. Okay, so I hope that you have that document with you, right? Okay.
I do not.
You do not? Can you go to the chat section?
I found that, but I don't know how to get it. And once
You just click it.
I did.
Okay, is there anyone who's good in computers? Can you tell us, so when you click, what happens?
I am in the chat. Okay, go ahead. Oh. Say it again, honey.
So did anyone open that document?
Hasu,
okay.
if you try to maybe
Can you explain? Nick, can you explain how to open that document?
Yeah, sure. So if it's not allowing you to click the link to open a new window, you may have to manually highlight it, copy it, and paste it in a new browser.
Oh.
Okay. Nehemiah, of course, when I divided into 5 groups, at least one of them should have the document, right?
That's
So
what I'm
that we can
counting
go
on.
through the questions. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is the surprise.
I also put all the questions in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Ritesh.
Oh my. Lunch meeting.
Please join the room and you get an invitation. Please join the rooms. It's still okay. Good. Let me see who are here. Kyoko, Timothy, okay. Baratia, Nikki. unmute myself. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Since we have a limited time, I would like to I would like to give each group a chance to answer one question, because there are 5 questions. So let's focus. Let's give each group a chance to give answers to one question. Okay. Let's go to the question number 1. What is Vajra? Okay. Okay, Nancy. So from your group, what did you discuss? What is Vajra?
Vajra is another name for a dorji.
What is
And
that?
Thunderbolt will, wisdom.
Yeah. Okay.
The one of the wings, compassion and wisdom. So
yeah. And the
it
very
has to
term
do with the
Vajra,
mind.
Sanskrit term Vajra means the diamond. Diamond, or like we have the diamond cutter.
Yep.
So the term is representing like penetration. Penetration. So that's called Vajra. Vajrayana is the vehicle of that diamond type of wisdom. Yeah. Because I think the reason that I think this name was chosen, because we know that in Theravada Buddhism and also the Mahayana Buddhism, the path to enlightenment was considered gradual. So the gradual path. Of course, in Vajrayana Buddhism, what happened? They accept the possibility of gradual path, but they wanted to do it within quickly. So Vajra, all the techniques that is developed within the Vajrayana Buddhism are to get the same result, but using specific techniques in a very like a thunderbolt manner. So it's like so the gradual path is one, but they will encourage people to have kind of quick path to enlightenment. Okay, thank you. So let's go to the second question. I think when did the Vajrayana teaching start to appear in India? Anyone has that answer to that? So who is speaking there? I can't hear you clearly. So I think there's some problem with your mic or maybe with your connection, so I don't hear you clearly. Yeah. So anyone else?
It started around 6th century.
6th, 7th century.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's a very important, because the concept of that technique called tantra, we'll come to that. It was like a movement, a trend that developed in India, even even outside of Buddhism and outside of traditional religions. Outside of traditional religions, there was a movement to criticizing more like institutions, criticizing like a very systematic, systematized, organized type of practice. So there was a movement, we can call it almost rebellious, but create a movement. There was a movement to use quite extraordinary techniques to achieve the same goals. So that whole movement influenced both Hinduism and many other religions, including Buddhism too. But because of that movement that happened in 6th century, in India, some essence of the Buddhism was able to kind of manifest it more clearly, and that's what happened in Vajrayana Buddhism. Because of that tendency to go beyond the normal standardized systems and go beyond the mainstream institutions. And the Vajrayana Buddhism was a result of that movement happened in India, what we call Tantra. We talk about that later. So but it was helpful for Buddhism to bring out certain other strength of Buddhism out. Okay, so let's go to the difficult one. What does it mean to take the result of fruits as the path? Let's see, do you have any answer to that? What does it mean to take the result of fruits as the path?
I believe it's the most considered to be the most powerful and a greater vehicle.
No, No, I mean, what do you mean by the taking the results as the, because we have the path and we have the result, right? So you have the practice, then we have the result. So you have the practice, then you have the fruit. What does it mean to take the fruit as the practice, as the path?
Would it be the results of like an accomplishment that you have gained from practicing, like equanimity or something as a fruit?
Yeah, I think, yeah, the fruits are all the manifested enlightened qualities. So what in Vajrayana Buddhism, what they were emphasizing is that, of course, as I told you, it's like
The
moving
time take.
beyond from gradual path. Any answer to that?
Is it the time it takes to reach enlightenment? You can reach enlightenment within one's lifetime. According to the other two practices or the branches, it takes many lifetimes and life forms.
Yeah, it is possible. Even in other traditions, it's possible in either way. Yet it is true, yes, because I mean, what happened in Vajrayana Buddhism? We already can understand the enlightened mind, right? It is full of compassion and no discriminations, no duality of one or the other, and full of compassion. So we know how it look like. So in Vajrayana Buddhism, and also they recognize certain enlightened figures. And then what happened that you will use these enlightened figures and then try to identify yourself with them. Let me share my screen now, so then you will see it in the presentation. For example, okay. So we know in Mahayana Buddhism, we have cosmic Buddhas and already enlightened figures like Bodhisattvas, like almost enlightened, and the Buddhas. So what happened in Vajrayana Buddhism, they focus on the end result. And because belief is that the enlightened mind is already existing within us. And it's like, in the Theravada Buddhism, it's a potential that needed to be manifested. But in Mahayana Buddhism and Vajrayana Buddhism, enlightened mind is already existing. So therefore, you are not very different from enlightened being, so to speak. So what is happening there, like you focus on a Buddha figure or enlightened being, and then identify yourself with that enlightened being, with your body, speech, your mind. That is why the whole use of mantra and gestures. So it kind of, in meditation, in practice, you visualize yourself as an enlightened being that's already there. You can choose enlightened figure, enlightened Buddha or Bodhisattva. In Vajrayana painting, has so many enlightened beings over there. So you identify yourself with already an enlightened being. And then you start to behave like that in your thoughts, in your deed. And then in that way, doing that, you very quickly remove your defilements. So using the fruit means they already taking the enlightened being, enlightened state as a way to be. So it's more like I would say it's more like a full dress rehearsal. When you have full dress rehearsal, you almost like, behaving as if you're enlightened. That's the whole idea, behaving as if you're enlightened, and then eventually you make it. So that's the idea.
Can you fake it till you make it with that one?
Something like that. Of course, that is the whole meaning of taking the.
Once you enter the path, you have already reached the goal. Is it something like that?
Yeah. You haven't reached the goal, but you act as if you have reached the goal. Yeah, you act as if you have reached the goal, and then in that way you reach the goal very quickly. That's the whole idea of Vajrayana.
Bhante, one question.
Yes.
It says it's already present in the here and now. So what does that mean? Enlightenment, it's not a distant goal to be achieved only after much effort, but it's already present in the here and now. What does
Okay.
that mean?
Okay, that's a good point actually. In early schools, including Theravada Buddhism, enlightenment is a potential. So we all have potential to become enlightened. So nirvana is already existing within us as a potential, as a seed that that needed practice to grow and manifest it. But according to Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism, enlightened nature is already there. The true nature of mind is enlightened. It's a delusion that has covered that enlightened nature. So there's a slight difference how you understand. So in Theravada Buddhism, enlightenment is a potential that needed to be manifested. But in Vajrayana and Mahayana Buddhism, enlightenment is, or enlightened nature of the mind is already there. It's just being clouded with other defilements. So you need some specific factors to remove this cloud, and then the already enlightened mind will appear.
Bhante,
Yes.
with
Yes,
the
Rafael.
figures, with the figures, are they similar to in the Catholic and the Orthodox religions? We have, for example, Saint Francis.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to imitate or be more like Saint Francis with the simplicity and the animals, they might meditate and look at those qualities.
Definitely, it's quite similar to that. Quite similar to that. In fact, what the difference would be, in Vajrayana Buddhism, I have also a question called Yidam, right? Yidam. Yidam is a chosen deity or chosen enlightened figure.
Right.
Your teacher will assign you a chosen enlightened deity, enlightened figure, and then that will be your goal. I will be like this enlightened figure. And then, of course, then I think we don't have time to, answer everyone. But and then using the special techniques called tantra. Tantra is special techniques, visualization, like visualization of that enlightened figure, and mantras, using the mantras related to that enlightened figure, and using the mandala. Mandala is the realm that created by that enlightened figure, and visualizing that mandala, the diagrams, like bird eye view of that mentioned, and the mudras are the gestures. So using all these things, you not only you behave outwardly in outside world, but even in meditation, you visualize, you create your mudra in your hand according to that enlightened figure that you have chosen, or you have chosen. You can't choose in Vajrayana Buddhism. Your teacher has to give you. It's very in Vajrayana Buddhism, because of the special techniques, it's not freely available. You cannot simply choose to practice. A teacher should give you, should empower you, should give you the permission to practice. That's quite slightly different in Vajrayana Buddhism. So you use your visualization, use your verbalization, you use your gestures to be as if you are that enlightened figure. And then, of course, outward world, you will also try to behave that too. Okay, I think we get to so I also asked the question called what is tantra? Tantras means special techniques. They can be esoteric because these are they believe that these techniques has to be practiced under supervision. So some techniques are not freely available. You have to be a disciple of a teacher, and the teacher will reveal to you that practices. So in some ways, certain practices are esoteric or secret.
Bhante, could
Yes.
I ask one
Yes.
question?
Yes.
Would you talk briefly about lineage and how and what that means in each tradition? That's the term lineage.
Oh yeah, okay. Lineage also is a line of line of transmission, right? Line of transmission.
Yeah.
So in Theravada Buddhism, there's no much emphasis on a teacher. In Theravada Buddhism, the historical Buddha is the main teacher. Of course, there are other teachers you respect. So in Theravada Buddhism, lineage means line of ordination. Line of ordination that you ordained by your masters, your masters we have ordained by that master. So we try to maintain that line of ordination all the way back to the Buddha. But in Vajrayana Buddhism, mainly lineage means it's some techniques called some tantras. But some visualizations, some mantras are preserved by certain teachers, and they will only reveal that to their disciples, and they will reveal it to their disciples. So there's a different sense in Vajrayana Buddhism when it comes to terms of lineage. So lineage means lineage of transmitting certain special techniques that you only reveal to a disciple when you think that the disciple is ready. So it's not available outside of the lineage.
Okay.
So that they have that different. So line of transmission of special techniques that they think that can be useful to become enlightened.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Bhante,
Yes.
I have a question about in the first reading that you gave us for today.
Yes.
It talks about lay women and women,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just wondering, is there a difference in lay women roles or abilities within the three traditions? Is there a difference?
No, actually.
I thought I heard once that somewhere it wasn't
Yeah,
agreed that women could
in the
become
first reading
enlightened.
they said that I think in the Lotus Sutra there's emphasis on women also. I think in Buddhist tradition sentient beings, you don't really divide them into male or female. They're sentient beings, so every being has same potential to become enlightened. Even they don't talk in male and female topics.
Okay.
Yeah, but you need to so in Buddhist doctrines, both in Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana, there's no special abilities the male or female have. They're all when it comes to mind, it is the same. So the mind doesn't have male or female. It's the same mind. But of course we have different tendencies. But that's unique to individual, not to male to and female. But of course, when Buddhism evolved in different historical periods, all three traditions. I'm talking about practical sense. In the doctrines, there's no difference, but in practical sense, in all three traditions have, historically been biased to male gender. I had to admit that. For example, in Vajrayana Buddhism, we don't have bhikkhunis. Of course, we have female renunciants, but still they don't have full ordination for bhikkhunis. And His Holiness is trying. I think His Holiness Dalai Lama, I think started it a few years ago, but that is unprecedented within Vajrayana Buddhism. But in Mahayana Buddhism, you have full ordained bhikkhunis. Theravada Buddhism, they had and they lost it, and there are efforts to reestablish it. So historically, there are some gender biases, but doctrinally, no. All three traditions has no biases.
And so where do us women stand now in Theravadan?
We don't see you as a woman or man. We see as a disciple and as a student, as a practitioner. I already removed that gender vision.
So we can just retain that?
Yes.
What did you say, Dana?
I said, so we can just be ordained then?
Yeah. Only in Sri Lanka. It's still, Thailand and Burma, they are still, debating about that. But in Sri Lanka, you can, anyone can get initial ordination. In ordination, there are two stages, initial ordination and then higher for full ordination. So the problem was the full ordination. There are technical issues that, because in order for you to become full ordained nun, you have to have a senior nun. So when you don't have a senior nun, how you make another nun? But Sri Lanka has found some way to override this, so you can become a full ordained nun in Sri Lanka.
It seems
if
like
you're interested, please let me know.
Catch 22.
Can I interject something? That's actually a point that I tried to get into a long time ago, because as far as I see it, the whole male-female dichotomy was and has always been a cultural, political thing. The Buddha himself had a lot of pressure on him.
Yes.
His mother, it took many years for him to bring his own mother into the Sangha because of
Yeah.
the Indian system and
Yes.
cultural and political climate. And that's not certainly not at all unique to the Buddha. The same was with Christ, with Jesus and his mother and her role within the Jewish community. So culturally and historically, it has always been a political thing, not at all a spiritual thing in my opinion.
Well,
Thank you, Bernard. Yeah, thank you, Bernard. Yeah, I think, that's more like, I don't know, all human society, has been, plagued by this, these biases throughout the history. Yeah. Yes. Okay, I think we are running out of the time. Let me quickly finish my slides. So in Vajrayana Buddhism, there are many enlightened figures that you can focus and you can use for meditation. You can use to identify yourself with under the teacher's permission. So there's medicine Buddha. I just want to give you some variety of it. And all enlightened beings are not always pleasant looking. There are wrathful and also peaceful feature of all the enlightened being. This is a wrathful nature of enlightened being. So it's quite complicated within Vajrayana Buddhism. And also there are also certain figures like this. This is a union of wisdom and skillful means. Vajrayana Buddhism try to bring opposites to one as a way of going beyond the duality. And what you see in this figure is the union of wisdom and skillful means, but is presented in the male and female forms. But the union of the female form represent wisdom and male form represent skillful means. So the enlightenment is like coming together of both energies together. So there are, it is quite, quite colorful, that tradition. But what I want to emphasize here before you end the class, each tradition has been built on one over the other. That's I really want you to understand. So if someone asks, what is Mahayana? I would say Theravada plus. So because it's not, the Mahayana developed not in opposition to Theravada. We need to understand historically it was not developed in opposition to Theravada. It's simply based on Theravada teaching. Of course, Theravada and also other schools. Right now we only have Theravada. Built on teachings of the early schools, but they added certain other practices and teachings. So it's Theravada plus. So they don't deny any Theravada teachings. No teacher will deny Theravada teaching. They are based on Four Noble Truths, based on dependent origination, based on them, but they have added, they have made it more compassionate oriented practice. And Vajrayana is mainly following Mahayana, but having tantras, special techniques, sacredly revealed to you by your teacher to achieve the enlightenment quickly, using very specific techniques to break your delusions. So Vajrayana is like a Mahayana plus, or maybe Theravada plus, if you like to call it. So I was trying to find a way to present it to you. So I think I found this image way to remember. So this is what we call the Buddhist tradition. So the Theravada, and on the top of that we have, if we include in Theravada, you have Mahayana, and then on the top of that we have Vajrayana. So inclusive to each tradition. That is why throughout the history, there's no conflict between these two different traditions. Has never been in these 26 centuries. There was never been a conflict among these traditions because of this reason. It's like simply adding additional layers to the practice.
Just one question.
Yes.
But in Vajrayana, I am not familiar with that, so I may very well be wrong.
Yes.
But it describes in the text as like a sort of like a distractive path, and there's certain things that just sound like it may go against some of the principles of Theravada. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah, of course, it's possible in the way they present it, but I think if you go into the essence of that practice, they're all talking about the eradication of suffering, okay, and going beyond the delusions of self, the delusion of separate self, and then eradicating defilements. of course, there are different approaches how you do that. For example, Theravada Buddhism will try to observe moral precepts first and then diminish the power of defilements and then directly address that in meditation. But in Vajrayana Buddhism, they will use the defilements, energy of the defilements, and then they try to use different special techniques called tantra to like break that defilements in a very different way. So there are different techniques, but achieving the same goal. But of course, throughout the history, I mean, different teachers have come up with different techniques. So that's why it's like additional, built onto that.
Thank you.
So because of many different traditions, it's kind of, it's a kind of strength of Buddhism, because with different traditions, we can approach to practice differently. So because people by nature are different, right? So, and first, I mean, if you really need a straightforward teaching, and you can find Theravada. Very straightforward. This is what you have to do. These things are, and I mean, working with your mind and have compassion to yourself and others. And for some people, they may think that Theravada Buddhism is too straightforward, not juicy enough, not colorful enough. And then you have Mahayana form of Buddhism with compassion oriented, so many other celestial beings to help you. For Theravada practice, you may feel like this is like a difficult, I mean, more like a practice that you have to put a lot of effort. But of course, anyway, you have to put some effort. But at least in Mahayana Buddhism, you have other celestial and bodhisattvas to help you. So it's more devotional oriented. And of course, when you come to Vajrayana Buddhism, it's so colorful. You have so many varieties of techniques. It also depends on, inclination. Some people like enchantment, to have all, different techniques. Some people like it straightforward. So you have all options. It doesn't matter what kind of personality you have all these options. So we couldn't talk about different schools within Mahayana Buddhism like Zen and Pure Land Buddhism. Let's try to talk about it in later time. So I just want to share with you this one. So every year we have a Vesak celebration here with the participation of all the Buddhist groups in the area. So we have this concept in 2017. It's called Many Petals, One Lotus. So that is what we mean. I mean, that's the nature of Buddhist traditions. So it's throughout 26 centuries, a long journey. Buddhism has a long journey. So definitely there was so many changes happen along the way. But I think there are very different approaches, very different techniques, but for the same goal.
Swamin, one sec.
Yes?
A question.
Yes.
For the historical Buddha, there are archaeological proofs that Buddha was existed.
Yes.
But for the Mahayana, for the Vairoshana Buddha and the Amitabha Buddha, are there any proofs that these Buddhas going to come in the future?
No, these Buddhas were not the Buddhas on earth. They are in different realms. They were, I mean, the Amitabha Buddha is a Buddha in a different realm. We can talk about it. So this Buddha never appeared on earth. So we can't find archaeological research.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, that's why you call cosmic Buddhas. Okay, I think, I mean, I got a number of questions here, but if I'm going to answer, that's going to take time. But if you put the answer, you can stay behind. So I can let other people who want to leave, they can leave now. But if you want, I mean, the people who put the questions, if you really want to know the answer, you can stay behind. And then I will answer individually because we don't have time. And we already 15 minutes over our time. I think today is like so much of discussion. I'm glad that it was engaged class. So let us formally conclude the class now. And people who want to know the answer to the question you post in the chat, please stay behind. I will answer. Okay, let us take a moment to think about this time that we spend. We try our best to be familiar with different traditions of Buddhism. Throughout 26 centuries of long journey, Buddhism has manifested in different ways. So all this, ultimately, all these traditions, all these teachers, all these people have made effort to eradicate suffering, to help so many other beings to be free from suffering, and all were understanding the possibility of enlightenment and go beyond our delusions, go beyond our defilements. So we try to learn that. So let us now dedicate this learning to all other beings. If whatever learning that I develop today, may that learning be a help, be a support for me to help so many beings, to purify myself, and also to help so many other beings. Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu,
sadhu.
sadhu.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Bhante.
those who want to leave, please, you can leave now. And those who want to stay behind, you can stay.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bhante. Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Nick.
Okay, see who are here. So I will only answer the people the question posed by the people who are here. Okay, let me see. I think Sharon has a question about the realm, right? What we mean by the realm. Yes. So I think the realm is simply a plane of existence, plane of existence. So in Buddhist idea of cosmos, there are many planes of existence. There are many, forms of life. And so within standard Buddhist understanding, there are main 6 realms. So human is one form of life. Animals is another form of life. But there are also many other forms of life that may not be visible to our human eyes. So there are like six realms in the samsara that people can be born into based on their karma. There are ghost realm, there's divine realm. Even within divine realm, there are different like Brahma realm and also, so there are different realms. And then when it comes to Mahayana Buddhism, it is believed that when somebody becomes some Buddha, like the our Buddha himself, then that Buddha has a power to create his own realm. It's a complete different plane of existence. And particularly the Amitabha Buddha has a realm they call the Western land. That realm is in the Western direction. So beings can be born into those realms too if they really make the karmic connection with that Buddha. So the realm is a plane of existence. I mean, and we have the common term called heaven. So that's, of course, the term heaven comes from different cultural background. But heaven is something that you think as always pleasant. But the realm may not necessarily always pleasant. It can be pleasant realms, could be unpleasant realms also. So the general plane of existence. So the heaven is just one, right? But there can be many realms too.
So Bhante,
is it clear? Is it clear, Sharon?
The only thing I'm not clear on is, are these planes of existence, these realms, are they all happening at the same time? Is there a different understanding of the time in which these realms exist? Or are they multiple planes of existence within the same chronological time sequence?
Yeah, the last one is the correct. It's a multiple layers of existence. Right now, just like human beings exist, animals exist simultaneously, right? And then, of course, the ghost can be here also. The ghost realm can also be here. And also other realms can also be here. So
is there
but one being can be only one realm at a time.
So is there a realm where the historical Buddha is alive right now, or that is not a realm that
Yeah, okay. When you become the Buddha, you already transcend all realms. Means that you don't exist as an individual being anymore. But the bodhisattvas who are almost enlightened, but the very reason that they don't become fully enlightened, they don't want to dissolve into the into the Dharmakaya, into the unmanifested, reality. So they still maintain some individuality by not becoming fully enlightened.
Okay.
Enlightened. So historical Buddha kind of transcended all realms, all planes of existence. But of course, according to Mahayana Buddhism, the Buddhas can create their own realm. But they don't talk about the historical Buddha, because historical Buddha, according to Mahayana Buddhism, is a physical manifestation of the Dharmakaya. So it's a two different system. But in according to Mahayana Buddhism, there are other Buddhas and having their realm right now. And the people practicing Pure Land Buddhism, their goal is to somehow create a special connection with the Amitabha Buddha, and by reciting his name, developing devotion towards him, and then be born in that realm, because they believe that right now this world is not good place to become enlightened. So many distractions, too much to handle, and if you're born in there, and the Amitabha Buddha will provide you all conducive conditions for you to become enlightened. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Suvik, you had a question about the difference between the Buddha and the Bodhisattva. I think you understand that, right? So Theravada Buddhism, Bodhisattva is one who aspires to become the Buddha. That is Bodhisattva, and Buddha has already attained the enlightenment. But in Mahayana Buddhism, there can be Bodhisattvas who are aspiring to become the Buddha, who are almost the Buddha, but purposely don't become the Buddha. That is according to Mahayana Buddhism, because they can stay and help others.
Thank you. Abhyamudrine.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, let me see what are the other questions we have here. Anyone here who has any question?
The realms. Oh, never mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There are a few other questions, but I think the people are not here. So I will skip it. And if you have any questions, you can ask right now.
I have a question.
Yeah. Yes, Susie?
The Bodhisattva, so they can decide when they want to attain Buddhahood?
I think, yeah, they can.
So they just delay for many lives to help the people.
Actually, according to Mahayana belief, they are in a different, they are usually, in the realms created by the Buddhas. So they have quite a long life. I don't know. I mean, this complete in the Mahayana cosmology. It's not like a human lifespan. Yeah, but in Theravada Buddhism, you can call a human being a bodhisattva if someone is fully committed to become enlightened, someone fully committed to have a compassionate life. We can call that person a bodhisattva. So anyone who's aspiring to become enlightened in one of three ways can be called a bodhisattva within Theravada tradition. So human being can be bodhisattvas, and even Mahayana Buddhism is encourage everyone to become bodhisattvas. But other than asking everyone to become, in Mahayana Buddhism, all practitioners are considered bodhisattvas. But among them, they have recognized special celestial beings who are almost enlightened, but staying there to help other beings. So there are, two types of bodhisattvas here.
So is Bodhicitta?
Yes. Okay, so you have a follow-up question?
So in Theravada Buddhism, is Bodhisattva equivalent to our Arahant?
No, Arahant is fully enlightened.
Oh, okay.
Bodhisattva is like, it's like almost there, but they don't break the last defilement in order to stay here. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, welcome. Yes, yes, Nancy, do you have any question? Nancy?
Back on the realms. So like, are you talking about like the hell realms? So it'd be the hot and the cold and the hungry ghosts. and then it's human and animal realms,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Deva realm.
the what?
Deva realm can be maybe
Deva,
in,
yeah,
in English we can call maybe divine realm, and
Yeah,
also we
divine.
have other realm called Brahma realm.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, Vivek. Yes, go ahead.
So what is the difference between the Gatha and the mantra and the tantra?
Okay, good question. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Question
So,
for such a small body.
yes, that's a good question. Gatha is a stanza, means that it has many lines, like it can be at least 4 or 6 lines. It's a poem. It's a poem in Pali language. We call them stanza. So it can have many lines, either 6 or 4, maybe even more. So that's a Gatha. It's a precise, concise statement of a doctrine, but in few lines. Okay, and then mantra is a shorter phrase. It's a shorter phrase. It can have a meaning. It can have no meaning. So the mantra is mainly a rhythmic phrase that you chant it repeatedly again and again as a way of calming your mind. You can have a meaningful phrase also that you can have additional benefit to that, but mantra is shorter than a Gatha.
And it's associated with the deity, right?
Yeah, I mean, in Vajrayana Buddhism, yes, is really associated with a particular enlightened being, yes. But we can have, like in other, like Mahayana Buddhism and also Theravada, we can have certain phrases that is not related to any enlightened being also. But in Vajrayana Buddhism, yes, usually it's related to enlightened being. Tantra is a term that covers so many things. Tantra includes mantra also. The Tantra is a larger term. Tantra means specific techniques, particularly esoteric techniques, special techniques that can help you to become enlightened quickly. So the Tantra has so many sections: visualizations, recitations, and ritual practices, and all these different specific practices. So visualizations, ritual practices like doing, and also the gestures, certain gestures you make in your hand. So like different ways to emulate an enlightened being. That's called Tantra.
I also have another question. Which one is the most powerful out of all 3 of them?
You had to ask a Vajrayana practitioner. Because I don't practice in any of the, I practice mantra. So I use mantra, but I don't practice, visualizations. Because I mean, in Vajrayana Buddhism, those techniques are like coming from a teacher or disciple. So I would say that all these things can be powerful, yeah. But as a Theravada monk, I prefer a gradual path, not to use, of course, I can see the value of these special techniques that can kind of, give you a shock and break your delusions. But I rely on the teaching of the historical Buddha, and so I mainly following the gradual path, and Tantra is actually a way to make a quick progression of using. It's more almost like using the poison to kill the poison. So use the defilements to get rid of the defilements.
Thank you so much, Bhante.
Welcome. Okay, do you have any other questions? Okay. Okay, in that case, we can end the class now. Thank you very much, for joining us today. I think, yeah. And some people will ask me why I didn't include a rating for Theravada, and if I put that one, it could have been more than 2-hour class. But I think so. This is like introductory, but I'm glad that everybody had the engaged discussion. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hope to see you next week. We are actually covering a lot of ground in this course. So next time we'll talk about the Buddhism in the West. We are going to pass so many centuries and then quickly come to the West. Okay. So I hope that you'll attend that too. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Bhante.
you.
See you next week. Yeah.